truth and reconciliation, right to development, and so on and so forth. These are mandates created by the Human Rights Council. And you have 46 of these thematic mandates, and you have another 9 mandates focusing on country specifics, like the Special Rapporteur on the Democratic Republic of Korea, on Cambodia, and so on and so forth. So you have a country-specific set of rapporteurs, special procedures, and set on thematic focus. These are independent experts. This is not UN staff. These are independent experts recruited to lead on such mandates for a period of usually 6 years. Now, one feature of these mechanisms is that it can conduct country visits upon invitation of a state. So it's for states to invite these independent experts to come visit the country, engage with different stakeholders, state officials, civil society, and of course parliaments. That's critical for them to be in touch with parliaments and engage with parliaments. And at the end of an official visit, they will provide a report before the Human Rights Council and also before the General Assembly. And it's meant to be a constructive technical engagement with the states to help advancing, the topic, the focus of the mandate. But there is also informal ways to engage, because it takes a lot of time to schedule, to invite a special procedure, and to agree on a mutual date, and to get a visit. Logistics may also be a challenge for many of the Pacific states. But I also invite you to leverage and engage as parliaments informally with special rapporteurs, special procedures. For instance, you have in the Pacific, based in the Pacific in Sydney, the special rapporteur on the right to development. And we heard a lot of that this morning. Now, you may not be able to invite him officially on a visit, XYZ country here in the Pacific, but you can reach out to this special rapporteur. You can seek his advice on legislation, on policy, you can invite him even online or in person, and he can come. It will have no reporting duties, no reporting to the council, but that's another way to engage with this expertise that is available to you for free. And our office is here to support that. So we can also facilitate this engagement, sometimes even fund travels of the special rapporteur. We had the special rapporteur on climate change in Fiji. She's going to be back for the pre-COP. We had the special rapporteur on human rights defenders also in Fiji, Vanuatu, and Solomon Islands on an informal visit a couple of months ago. So this is something that can be achieved. Now, as an outcome of those UPR recommendations that the states choose to accept or to note, and again, I'm just going back to the example of Kiribati. Kiribati, out of 160 something recommendations, accepted 120 recommendations. But in general, worldwide, between 60% and 70% of these recommendations are requesting the parliament action. Is it ratification, legislative work, revision or reform of existing legislation that are controversial or problematic, and so on and so forth. So more than half, really almost 2/3 of the recommendations fall under your authority to advance in implementation. So what parliamentarians can do in the context of the UPR? Well, participate, and I just take some time at the end to explain what is a national NMRF. Is a national mechanism for reporting, implementation, and follow-up. So Kiribati has, for instance, a national human rights task force that is coordinating the reporting work within the government. It's a cross-ministerial task force that is in charge of ensuring the reporting of Kiribati in front of the treaty bodies it has ratified. But last week we were sitting with that task force, and we expanded. They noticed they have to expand because they also have to do the same work now for the UPR and for special procedures. And how parliaments can liaise with such entity to be part of the reporting, the design of it, and the follow-up and implementation would be critical. And for instance, I mentioned that previously, human rights committees could be the bridge between this national mechanism for reporting and follow-up and human rights committees sitting in parliament. That is one example. You can contribute to the national report of the states to the UPR, because that's one of the main source of information for the peer review, along with a stakeholders compilation. So all the NGOs are doing their input. It's another official source. And then the third source of information is all UN publicly available information that comes as a third compilation. You can participate as a member of the state delegation to the UPR. We've seen that more and more. Members of parliament sitting in Geneva or online and contributing and participating to the review itself. And same for treaty bodies, actually, because treaty bodies are even more legal reviews before a committee than the UPR sometimes. You can help contribute to define to the position of the states when you receive those recommendations. So you have a say there. Give follow-up to the recommendations and sustain the follow-up throughout the legislature and throughout the implementation cycle. Now, what can you do also for special procedures? Make sure that is there any action that needs to be taken to implement a report you may have received from a special procedures? Engage with them, as I said, leverage some informal contacts, invite them to participate in some of the special sessions you have or on the draft legislation you want to see reviewed. You can engage, and again, our office is here to facilitate that. And disseminate information about their work, their mandate. The rapporteur on extreme poverty is doing some important work on shifting the paradigm of economies based on growth only, about growth. And I'm happy to share some resource materials. He's really moving the needle, engaging with institutional financial institutions, private sectors to move the needle. The working group on business and human rights also is something we work increasingly with in the Pacific. And treaty bodies, I think I mentioned a lot of that already. I'm not going to repeat this. Now, I wanted to bring to your attention this toolkit designed specifically for parliaments for your self-assessment on engagement with human rights. This toolkit has been designed with the International Interparliamentarian Union and our office now 3 years ago, and we are disseminating that to all parliaments around the world. It's a practical, handy toolkit to know your needs-based, assessment. What are your gaps? How you can increase your engagements, your advocacies with international human rights mechanisms. I have a link here to the details of the toolkits. I'm happy, to answer more questions if you have on the specifics. But again, it's for all parliaments, regardless of their political system and context. It's a voluntary exercise. It has recommendations on how to be more compliant with international human rights mechanisms and factoring in the 2030 agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals. And in turn, it also aligns with your national development strategies, the KPIs, and we've seen that with Kiribati last week and your government. And it requires, leadership and ownership. I mean, unless parliaments don't embark on this and conduct such self-assessments and really try to domesticate that, to own and adapt it to your context and your proceedings, that's how it works, basically. It helps you, to assess your needs, what kind of training may be needed, and again, this is where we and the IPU can come in support. It helps you identify good practices, gaps, and lessons learned. And it helps you also mainstream and sustain your engagement with human rights mechanisms. So again, the key principles are supportive leadership, inclusiveness, and ownership. Now, very briefly, let me just end by quickly presenting what we call these national mechanisms for implementing, reporting, and follow-up as an institutionalization of current interministerial coordination structures. So there is no one-size-fits-all of such institutionalized, setup. We've seen ad hoc national mechanism for reporting. We've seen embedded and sustained in governments. We've seen also a stand-alone institution that comes and goes with the government. So it is for each state to come with their best, practical, efficient, sustained structure. The one we see that's work best, also in terms of, resources, sustainability, capacity to coordinate, is the standing interministerial national mechanism for reporting and follow-up. So Kiribati, with its National Human Rights Task Force, is close, very close to that now. And we've been discussing again last week how to expand, reinforce, strengthen some of their, capacities and assignments, and how to help them sustain this. So the role of the NMRF is to coordinate and prepare reports and engage with the mechanisms I just mentioned, UPR, treaty bodies, special procedures, and bridging distances with that, with the help of our office and also the wider UN. Coordinating and tracking national follow-up and implementation. Data, access to data, we all need data. What is it we are doing, for what purpose? The metric system being how we deliver for the people, your own people, we as the United Nations. Yeah, I think I've been already a lot through that as well, but parliaments, have a key role in ensuring the compliance of the legislations that are to be designed, drafted, or existing in place, how to review these, and how to ensure in the implementation that you also meet the target. Budget, I already mentioned that. Yeah, so maybe I'll just leave with the four capacities of NMRF: capacity to engage, capacity to coordinate, capacity to consult, and to manage information. So that's what we ideally would aim for. And again, every context has its own, design, feature, texture for the needs. Yeah, I would just leave it at that. I'm not going to repeat this. I think I'll leave it at that. If there are any questions or comments, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Sebastian. We'll just open the floor for a few minutes for any questions for our first presenter. You guys don't like human rights? Recognize one, please.
Thank you, Sebastian, for a wonderful presentation. According to your presentation, all but one country did not ratify the CRC. I wondered on the same regarding Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities and Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against One. Can you tell us, within the APIL countries, how many out of the total APA countries have endorsed CRC, CEDAW, and CRPD?
Thank you for that question. I will have to sit down and I will give you the exact numbers, but I think what I can say is, the vast majority, I think all member states of the Pacific has ratified the CRC, especially small island, developing states. CEDAW is still halfway through. We still have some, resistance. And the one that was on racial discrimination, third, or no, person with disabilities, CRPD, that's also on the uptake. So I think the vast majority of the seats have ratified CRPD. So it's more down at the capacity levels to really being able to implement that properly and managing the challenges, navigating the challenges they face. So CEDAW, for instance, last year came to Fiji. That was the first time we had a CEDAW, a treaty body committee coming to a region, that was the Pacific, in April in Fiji. And it has conducted many consultations and also reviews of 3 states, Fiji, Tuvalu, and Solomon Island in the region. And that's something we try to promote, to get these treaty bodies, instead of sitting in Geneva, and for you, especially Kiribati, crossing the world to go there, can they come more and more in the regions? And also promote ratification where there is resistance. But I'll give you the exact figures. This is a promise.
Pompey,
Yeah.
still have the floor.
Thank you, thank you. One of the health initiatives these days is healthy aging. Is there any rights for aging people by the UN?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's what we call older persons. You have a special procedure, you have a special mandate on older persons. We have a full program that we also try to implement across the Pacific, because population is aging, like in many other places around the world. This is a global trend. So we have a full dedicated program, and I'm happy also to share some of the resources, materials, and engagement. We don't have anything here in Kiribati, but like for instance in Fiji, where our office is based, we do engage on older persons. Yeah. Maybe one thing, if I'm allowed, just to last word. I mean, also in terms of your advocacy in engaging with not necessarily the mechanisms, but with the human rights standards worldwide, which are under attack. I mean, it's no surprise to everyone. I mean, the president mentioned that, it is difficult times, and international law, including international human rights law, is under attack. Our High Commissioner has just now launched what he refers to a global alliance for human rights. This is a multi-stakeholder alliance engaging with a different, range of actors, stakeholders worldwide, be it, private sectors, artists, of course, states, civil society, and you name it, universities, academics, but also parliaments. So this is my message to you, and I will share. There is now a dedicated website for this global alliance that will take us for the next 3 years until the 80th anniversary of the Universal Declaration for Human Rights. But it is an attempt to, come together with states and other actors who needs human rights to be protected, needs human rights to have a sustained peace, sustained development, to come together and either to benefit from the global alliance, but also to contribute. It goes both ways. And I think in the Pacific, there are many, many actors that can contribute for your own domestic context, for the region, but I would even say for the international stage. So I think the voice of the Pacific can go a long way at the international stage to push back and, reinforce the international human rights system. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more? We'll take one more question, and then Kiribati.
Just a curious question about what's the difference between human rights and women rights? How come women, they are different, or? Sorry.
No? Thanks. So women are human beings. Therefore, they have human rights. Now, under the human rights, so starting from the declaration to the different, conventions, human rights, as I said, is for everyone, everywhere. From birth, even pre-birth, to your death, regardless of age, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, religion, any human being in any context, regardless of peace, war, political, regime, development, course, and so on, are protected by human rights. Now, we recognize that some human beings are oftentimes put at more risks than others. Women being one important one. That's why it has a dedicated convention against the discrimination against women, discrimination in all aspects of life, labor, parliament representation, in war, in conflicts, in development context, on the climate change, women are often more affected than men. We have children, that's another, population that is more exposed, oftentimes in different many contexts. Older persons is another one we focus on. So children have a dedicated treaty conventions protecting children. We don't have yet a convention specifically on older persons. You know, who knows? But so women are not separate from human rights, or they don't have separate rights. There is just more focus, more specific protections, because by experience, for generations, women have been much more vulnerable or put in vulnerable situations. Yeah, in many, many different contexts, as I said. Did I answer your question? Yeah? No?
Recognize Marshall Islands?
Well, that's not a human rights. That's a prevention of violence, the prohibition of violence, you know.
All right. Thank you, Marshall Islands. Thank you, Kiribati. Thank you, Pohnpei. Let's give our presenter another round of applause. Thank you very much. We'll now take a few minutes to transition to the next presenter. So we'll take a short recess while we prepare for our next presenter. Kiribati, yeah, your answer better have been yes when he said, did I answer your question?
Ladies and gentlemen, just for your preparation for tomorrow activity, we have the process at the back and the registration form. We have a registration form for the bird watching activity, and those who are going for fly fishing, we also have that registration form for them. So those who are putting their names on that registration form, they are the ones that will be going on that activity for tomorrow. Tomorrow. Might be good. It's very good. But I have the table at the back. I'll be there for you guys. Thank you.
go to the next picture. Right, members, if we can, oh, go ahead. We can slowly make our way back to our seats. All right, colleagues, we'll go ahead and get started. Can I have everyone's attention, please? We will, yeah. We will now rise back to our General Assembly. Before we went on recess, we finished with our first presenter, Mr. Sebastian Gilios, presenting on the role of legislatures on legislating according to human rights mechanisms, recommendations, and strategically using human rights mechanisms for advocacy. We now move to our next presenter this afternoon. He will be presenting on digital connectivity in Kiribati. He is the Chief Regulation and Licensing Officer, Ministry of Information, Communication and Transport. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Mr. Tabo Awa Tabu.
Hey, testing. Honorable Presidents, Vice Presidents, and APIL members, and those who are here today, allow me to greet you all in the name of Jesus Christ. I greet you, Kamna Penini Meudi. Kamna Penini Meudi. Yes, I am Tapo Tapo, and I'm from the island of Tap South, one of the southern islands in Kiribati. And most of the time, I will talk and you will listen through the T accents from that island. So when you listen to me, you will realize that that is the typical accent from where I come from. So, and please accept it. Today, I will be talking about the digital connectivity in Kiribati. And so, on behalf of the Minister, Honorable Minister for Ministry of Information, Communication and Transport, Mr. Honorable Alexander Tiapo, Ada Man. I represent him being a presenter for the ministry. So allow me to greet you in his own Kamauri. Kamna Benin Maori. When God created earth, heaven, He created everything that was recorded in the Bible. Presentation. So I named the title of my presentation as Transforming the Big Ocean State. Title of my presentation as Transforming the Big Ocean State. The Big Ocean State. Because we all know that Kiribati has a very big, very huge size in terms of the ocean. Not through the lands, but as we can see, it's a very big ocean state. No connection there. We'll see how it's connected. All right. So before I move on, I would like to take you through and attract your attention to this office, what is called the Digital Transformation Office. That's where I come from. And the Digital Transformation Office was established to develop, to initiate something that is unknown, to make sure that the whole Kiribati are connected, the all islands are connected. It has 5 main functions, as we can see in the PowerPoint. First of all, it provides a policy and strategic oversight. It produces relevant policies, legislations that will guide how the digital platform, how the digital space is directed. We have the ICT system governance. That's when we design the standardized systems, interoperable and audited government architecture. The third one is the project and programs. That is how the office drives the cross-government digital transformation and infrastructure solutions. The fourth one is to build capacity, to strengthen the public ICT practitioners with right skills, to promote the digital awareness, digital inclusion to the whole nation. And finally, to make sure that there is a partnership with global allies and academia, banks, telecoms, and those stakeholders that are relevant to this digital space. And so, based on that, the Digital Transformation Office was created to coordinate a secure and sustainable digital ecosystem. And when we talk about a digital economy, we need to talk about very important legal and strategic foundations for growth. And in our perspective, we have the National ICT Policy 2019, and that policy envisions to provide an open, competitive telecommunication market to drive the broader digital economy. And we also believe the government decided that the Digital Government Master Plan and the Digital Government Act should be in place to guide where are we headed to. And also, we need the Kiribati Development Plan, and that is 2024 to 2027, to make sure that digital connectivity are integrated, education reforms and infrastructure resilience directly developed to ensure that the national development agenda is guided by that plan. Right. Allow me to take you through some of the achievements, some of the things that have been done in Kiribati. And within the 10 years, since 2016 to 2026, Kiribati is humbled to share some of the milestones that have been put in place by this government. In 2026, we can see that the connectivity in Kiribati is around 20% in terms of the coverage. That was only 20% throughout the whole nation. But that was the beginning of the story. And because we are currently faced with the very scattered islands around the nation, and of course, because of the geography challenge, we tried to translate that challenge into an opportunity. And so in 2016, the government decided that they need to provide something, to produce some very comprehensive plan. And so in 2019, the Kiribati government came up with a national ICT policy. And that policy provides a roadmap to ensure that there is a need for more strategies to be put in place. In 2022, the Kiribati cybersecurity strategy was established. And that strategy aims to ensure that whatever that is being developed in terms of the digital development needs to take into account cybersecurity measures to protect that development. A major milestone in this journey came up in 2021. The Digital Government Master Plan was put in place by government. The Cybersecurity Act was passed in 2021. And also, I remember clearly that in 2021, the Kiritimati Island was connected to the fiber cable system. And I remember that connection to the cable system because I was entrusted to become the MC for that launch. That was in 2021. In 2022, the Digital Transformation Office was informally established. And the confirmation of that establishment was made the year after. In 2023, the Digital Government Act 2023 was passed by Parliament. And that was the beginning of the story. That's when the digital transformation was mandated to develop and ensure that this development is progressing well. And also in 2023, Kiribati acceded to the Budapest Convention to ensure that cybercrime is taken into account in this nation. A year later, based on the survey, it was found that 70% of the nation, that was in 2024, 70% of the coverage throughout the nation. So we can see the progress from 2016 to 2024 that from 20%, the government tried its best to make sure that the coverage is reaching almost the whole country. And as we talk about 2024, it was 75%. Last year, 2025, the Data Protection Act was passed by Parliament. And the reason why there is a need for data protection is because as we are moving towards a digital world, we make sure that the personal data are protected according to the law. This year, early this year, and we are so thankful that we have parliamentarians in this platform, we had the first reading for cybersecurity bill. We had the second reading, and we believe, I put it there as, it was read for the second time, and for sure, the Cybersecurity Act will be ascended by the President maybe after this meeting, I believe. And then we have this very new public sector data exchange bill 2026, read for the first time, and most probably in the second, the next session, the next parliamentary session in August, we will try to make sure that this bill is read for the second time. And that aims to make sure that all public bodies can exchange their data interoperably. Also, we also wanted to share with you some of the achievements. Kiribati has tried its best to make sure that it follows its own plans. According to the Global Cybersecurity Index 2024, it is demonstrating that Kiribati has progressed a little bit towards a kind of a world that it is recognized in its actions. So we can see here, this is a tier performance indicator, and we can see that it is now under the category of establishing. We have tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and Kiribati is now positioned in tier 3 among other countries. That is, it's now establishing its system in terms of the digital transformation. And so, in order for us to bridge these massive, big, huge 3.5 billion square kilometers country, the Digital Transformation Office has tried its best to make sure that the project mobile rollout reaches 17 distinct ADOs. And also, we wanted to highlight that we have 2 more remaining inhabited island states for future development under the ongoing digital government projects. And as I'm standing in this Line Island, in Christmas Island, previously we were talking with one of the MPs, and they just came back from Tapueren, Fanning Island, and Washington Island, in the Line Islands, and they said, yeah, those are the 2 islands that are remaining ones, and the Digital Transformation Office will make sure that it reaches in the next couple of years, months, or years. Right, so this is a very brief snapshot of what has been done by the office. And we can see here is the population coverage as well as the quality of service. And so some of the islands still face the very low population coverage and poor quality of service. And since I'm talking about this, I'm talking about reality. This is the challenge. While some other islands, they have reached more than 90% in terms of the coverage. They are currently using the 4G. When we compare with the other outer islands. And some of the outer islands, they are in between. They have reached 80%, 70% in terms of the coverage. And still they have a kind of quality, medium quality of service. In order for me to break it down, I wanted to show you this pattern. Remember, we have 2 urban areas in Kiribati, right? We have the Tarawa and we have Christmas Island. And so, because these are the urban hubs, they have reached up to 90% coverage, the active 4G networks, and of course a direct integration within international fiber lines. And if you talk about Tarawa, because I indicated earlier that there was a connection to the fiber in 2021 in this island. In Tarawa, we have just launched last 3 weeks few weeks ago, we launched the fiber to the home, fiber to the premises in Tarawa. And so now they are working on the connection through the service providers, internet service providers like Vodafone and Ocean Link. So probably in the coming weeks, they should be able to deliver that very fast speed service. And we can see on the other side, the outer islands like Onoto. My apologies, Mr. Hempi from Onoto, but I indicated there that it's one of the islands that needs to be looked into in the next couple of years. So Onoto and Dap North, they have less than 50% population coverage. Their resilience, my apologies, they rely on the legacy of 2G or 3G system. And so the core insight that I wanted to portray here is the logistical reality of deploying physical infrastructure across dispersed islands. They create severe deployment cost imbalances. And I guess that is the reason why there is an imbalance between urban areas and outer islands. Allow me to take you through some of the realities, some of the common issues, and I'm pretty sure all of us have the same kind of stories. So when we navigate the structural and geographical bottlenecks, we have these current ones. First of all, we have, of course, geographic isolation. And if we talk about geographic isolation, we're talking about the hardware. Deploying and maintaining hardware across vast oceanic distances drives up baseline logistical cost. It's really, really expensive, really, really expensive. And that is currently faced by the office. And also, when we talk about the vulnerable infrastructure, unreliable outer island power grids, and the physical vulnerabilities of subsea cables threatens the network uptime. In terms of the resource and capacity, of course we are building the digital economy, but that comes with the change management. We have limited resources. We have the capacity gaps. And so it's the normal way of balancing all these developments. And we believe that digital connectivity is a very, very expensive undertaking, right? But that is the basic need for all of us if we want to get connected to the whole world. And if we talk about the connectivity, we are not merely talking about connection to the internet. No, we are talking about the benefit that the community will receive in terms of education, health, and many more aspects of the development. We also have a donor misalignment challenge. Of course, the government or the nation has its own national interest, and the donor may come with another interest. Or technical assistance may come with an advice that this is the best way, and our government may come with another questions, and that is real. We have seen this in reality. And so those are the bottlenecks that are pulling us down and dragging us down so that we are not progressing very, very, very fast. So those are the challenges that we have faced. But anyway, even though we have many challenges, still the government has its very strategic vision. In 10 more years, these are the visions and these are the things that we really wish they could happen to this nation. 90% of mobile reach out. Nowadays, we're talking about 75%. But we want, the government really wants to reach out to 90% of the population. Not only that, but as we are now developing the digital services to the public, to make sure that the end users receive the government services regardless of where they are, regardless of what they are doing, either in the ocean or on top of the coconut tree, dodgy tree, or inside the room, or outside the Maneaba, inside the Maneaba. Please, the government really wants to make sure that the digital services are put across. They can be reached to anybody. And that is a very ambitious vision for this government. And not only that, but we also wanted to make sure that the infrastructure are upgraded and to deploy, and this is a very interesting part, to deploy the containerized data centers and execute a comprehensive government land network upgrade. And if we talk about data centers, we're talking about another challenge. And that challenge is what we call it, what I normally say to my team is fragmentation. The government in itself, even in one ministry, and within that ministry, in different divisions, they have their own, they wanted to build their own data center within themselves. And they don't want to mix up and do centralize it. And so fragmentation is a really big challenge in this undertaking. But the government wishes that these data centers are developed and operated according to what is required. In terms of the policy evolution, the government really wish that the implementation of ICT Policy 25 frameworks supports and enhances the human resource recruitment and technical capacity. There is another very important aspect of our development that we wanted to share. We're talking about the final miles. We're talking about the very far islands. For your information, the government of Kiribati has decided to one of the very southern part of Kiribati to select it as what they call it a smart island project. Well, globally they call it smart cities, but because we don't have cities, we have islands, and so they call it in Kiribati in our context the smart island. And they've selected one of the islands, the Tamena. It's very far. And the mechanism is that they will utilize the LEO satellite technologies to bypass the physical and commercial impossibilities of laying a very expensive cable. But there is a target to expand this project to connect to other 5 additional remote islands. And I'm pretty sure that those 2 islands that are now currently vulnerable, and if we talk about vulnerable islands, we're talking about Tabueran and Tereina, which these islands have been affected by climate change. Years back, the waves, the tsunami came and attacked these islands, and there was no connectivity there. And imagine how could we reach out to get the details of the information about the climate change challenges. So maybe those islands will be covered under this project. If we talk about the human impact, and because this pioneering the true digital inclusion, and by delivering telehealth, for example, digital education reforms, and reliable communication to the most isolated communities. Today we had a discussion with one of the MPs from Kiribati, and he shared the beauty and the advantage of having this development in the outer islands. They were in Meraki, in one of the northern islands, and then one man got injured, and then because they had a very good Starlink there, they tried to call the Ministry of Health in Tarawa. And so they had to find a way, and the medical doctor from Tarawa instructed from there on how to cure this issue. And so those are the visions for these Smart Island projects, and things will be stirred up by the government. And as I'm speaking, in the pipeline, in the following month, next month, the team from KIT, Kiribati Institute of Technology, the institution that has developed a connection with the TTO, we have developed a MOU with them to deliver the digital literacy training. So they will fly to the island that has been selected, and they will install the equipment, and they will provide an e-learning platform for this island. And so based on what I've been discussing here, we believe that there is a need for what we call it the interlocking ecosystem. If we have a legal frameworks, cybercrime, digital Cybercrime Act, Digital Government Act, Cybersecurity Act. If we have these laws, but we don't have another a will or another element, which is the fiscal infrastructure, we understand it cannot be a waste for the government. So we need these three key elements. We need a fiscal infrastructure, we need the legal frameworks. At the same time, we need human capacity. People also need digital literacy, and that is part of our office. They are now currently conduct trainings and workshops to make sure that once all these systems are in place, the people are able to understand how to utilize these very complicated technologies. So the core insight here is that infrastructure alone is a stranded hazard. True digital sovereignty in Kiribati only occurs when high-speed cable or internet connection are paired with securely regulatory frameworks. I also wanted to talk about some opportunities for high-impact international partners. And these are some of the areas that we believe are the core areas of partnership. We talk about digital infrastructure. We really wish if there is a co-investment to enhance, operate, and maintain a national-wide data networks. We really wish if there is a partnership in terms of cybersecurity, in terms of the software development, in terms of the application development, and of course, we also need partnership in terms of legal and licensing. And if we can share what we have, and that will be the most important thing in this development. Ladies and gentlemen, we believe that from physical isolation to global integration, my ministry, through the Digital Transformation Office, invites strategic partners to help secure, sustain, and connect the future of our big ocean as Micronesians. Te Maori, te roi, o te tapumo, Yamin Kapene. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'll open the floor for a few minutes for any questions. Going once. Recognize Palau.
just a question, because I know the big ocean state like you mentioned, and reaching the other state is it's million miles apart. So just wondering on the funding, like how did you fund the cable that ran through all the islands? Just curious.
And that is a very, very, very difficult question, madam. Um, yes, I actually indicated earlier in my presentation that these undertakings are so expensive. And the government of Kiribati has tried its best to build a connection with World Bank, ADB, to fund all these projects. So through the banks. Yes. Right? And that is why I also indicated in my presentation that the Smart Island project will try to help with this very expensive. So I believe the government will not be able to to use that cable system to all islands. It is now trying to diversify its approaches from the cable to the main cities, and of course through the LEO satellite technologies. So those are the differences between the cable system. It also goes to the very urban areas like Christmas Island and Tarawa and save those populations. But in order for us to reach there, we use the mobile phones through the internet providers, internet service providers, as well as the satellite, like for example Starlink and probably other satellite service providers might be coming to these markets. Yeah, but it's very expensive. And to be honest, I'm not a technical person that I can come up with a budget, you know. But I can tell you, coming from Hawaii or from FSM through this state, through this Kiribati, Tarawa and Christmas Island, it's so expensive. And I can't tell you I will make sure I will get the budget for you, and I will talk to you directly. Right. And if anyone else wants to know the budget, I will also talk to you face to face.
Thank you. Pala, I recognize Pohnpei.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, sir, for such a wonderful presentation. And following up on the question that Palau asked, I'm also curious in knowing about your maintenance and enhancement activities for the system. Who's doing that, and how much are you spending on the system? For maintenance and enhancement of the system. I'm sure you would need maintenance on your hardware and then enhancement of your software. And it's a very diverse system with the seawater and everything that would be affecting the hardware. So I'm just wondering the cost related to this kind of services.
Thank you so much. I believe as we are now establishing these systems, maintenance, sustainability is another very critical issue that we are taking into account. And so, budget-wise, we haven't come up with the budget because we are establishing these systems now. But it is considered as part of the planning. So maintenance planning is also part of this undertaking.
Thank you, Pohnpei. RMI?
Thank you, and just a few clarifying questions. Thank you for the presentation. I'm just curious if you're running fiber optic cable throughout the atolls, or what?
All right. So basically, the initial plan is for for the urban areas, because most people are living in you know, and so nowadays, as I'm speaking, we have only 2 cables that have landed in Christmas Island and in Tarawa, the other urban area, the capital city. So those are the current plans, and now they are being deployed to the fiber to the home and fiber to the premises, as I indicated in my presentation. They've launched that, and now they are working on the pricing with the service providers, and those are the initial plans. If it is successful, then they will consider. The government will consider. The government has an exclusive power to determine whether or not these cables will be reaching out to other islands. But as we said, the other technologies like 4G networks and 3G, they are now being used in other islands, as well as the usage of Starlink dish.
Arma, you still have the floor.
Okay, you have 2 service providers, companies, Vodafone and the other one. So
Ocean Link.
Ocean Link. So your government charges those companies to operate locally?
These companies are buying the services from the what we call it. There is a state-owned enterprise owned by the Kiribati, which is a Babariki network. So the Babariki network is now operating these cables. They install them, and then they allow these internet service providers.
They're selling connectivity to these.
Yes. Yes. So the people will receive the service from internet service providers like Ocean Link and Vodafone, but they pay that service from, and that's why I'm saying they are now negotiating the pricing, because they are given a very cheap price, but they will they will sell out a little bit expensive. That's why our office is trying to reduce the pricing for people.
Okay, one last one, please. So the Starlink, how do you operate that one? Is it anybody just can? Does your government charge for Starlink to be utilized in country?
Right. So practically, initially when they first brought down these to Kiribati, the Starlink dish, they came and then they installed it, because you can just install it anywhere, anyhow. But then CCK, the Communication Commission Kiribati, which is the regulator for these communication equipment, they are now providing licenses. So before you install your dish, you need to get the proper license from the CCK, the Communication Commission Kiribati, the main regulator.
Thank you, Republic of the Marshall Islands. We'll take one more, and then we'll wrap it up. Going once, going twice. All right, with that, let us give Mr. Tabo our appreciation. Thank you very much. And with that, we'll go ahead and take a little break, and we'll proceed to our last presentation for the afternoon. Okay, recess. I was just informed there's afternoon tea time, so right outside. So while we're on recess, let's enjoy the tea time. Thank you.
thì cái ảo ang case one mo
Ada yang akan presentation sekarang.
control này đấy. Ang sa pagboto ko.
Kaya pare kanina kung the next slide tadi. Ang kakapit ako.
If element is Sweden.
So we're all ready? Are we ready? Okay. All right, colleagues, members, thank you. I hope you enjoyed your little tea time. We now rise back to our General Assembly, and before we went on recess, we just finished with the digital connectivity in Kiribati presentation by Mr. Tabo Aotabu, the Chief Regulation and Licensing Officer. We now proceed to our final presentation for the day. And the topic is trade and investment in Kiribati. Our presenter is the Director for Business Promotion Center, Ministry of Tourism, Commerce, Industry, and Cooperatives. His biodata is right in front of you. A copy has been distributed. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Mr. Irevita Birisi.
Thank you very much, Chairman of the APIM and before I proceed on, let me start off with our traditional greetings. Okay, like what the chairman has already mentioned before, my discussion will be focused on the trade and the investment in Kiribati. So the content of my discussion will be, I might be talking on the geographical location where we are located, and we would like to see what is trade and what is trade in goods and services. And we might need also to look at globalization and the connectivity. Like before, you've been also talking about connectivity. But here, given that trade is something that try to pull the peoples together in terms of the provision of goods that they really want. That's why we also include the globalization and connectivity. And we include it as part of our discussion this afternoon. Among our discussion, we would also like to cover something on import and the export, and then the status of trade in general, the quantity and value of import, and then we might also look at our foreign direct investment and its contribution to economic development and employment. We would also look at the challenges faced, the achievements, way forward, and then we come up with the last one as the conclusion and recommendation. So in this slide, we would be looking at a world map. So here we can see the whole world, the whole globe. And that's where we can see Kiribati is in a small dot, and we are far located in the central part of the vast Pacific Ocean. And we are in between the the continents, and we are separated by sea. But if there is trade, we would be connected. And if we refer to your theme, bridging distances, that's where the distances are bringing us together, because we are trying to, the producers, they are trying to outreach their distribution of goods to all people around the globe. So regardless of where we are within the globe, we would be able to get whatever product they are willing to provide the whole world with, especially the goods and also the services. So before we move on, we might need to ask ourselves, what is trade by itself? And then there we can see that trade can be simplified in a very single sentence, which is the fulfillment of desires by two individuals or groups by the swapping of their respective material goods and services. So basically, trade in goods shows both the number of imported and export commodities for every countries, whereas services reflected the number of imported and exported services to any particular countries in resolving their domestic needs. So globalization and connectivity. Thinking and acting collectively as one, despite our distances, cultural differences, and the others. Why? Then we ask ourselves, why do we have to think and act collectively as one? Although we are quite far from each other, and we have our cultural differences and others. Why are we working like that? And then the world is getting closer by means of connectivity, like what I've mentioned Health problems may be fast spreading. For example, the spread of epidemics like the spread of COVID-19, like what we've been so far experienced during the past years. It's affect countries in the major countries, big continents, but then it actually reaches out to small island states. And at the end, there is an impact to small and even isolated countries. Looking at trade itself, this refers to the exchange of mostly goods between countries, either by ship or by plane. So in this regards, trade is really dependent on connectivity, for it cannot happen without the distribution. And the main means of distribution is either by ship and or by plane. So we need to be connected by this transportation, and the faster and efficient our technological means of connectivity is, the faster the distribution of goods and services. Considering Kiriba's trade, please bear in mind that it always experiences a deficit, for it has a bigger volume of imports compared to its export. And based on limited resources, and as the demands for imported food items remains very high, there is always a tendency to have a trade deficit over the years. As in 2024, Kiriba's deficit has gone up to Australian value of 330.6 million, which is the highest level record in the series, while Kiriba's base production is narrow. The trend will remain steady. Accordingly, and based on one of the APL resolution, there is a tendency for reviving the medicine shipping services to Kiribati. And with the current trade deficit, this may be worth considering, given that in the past experience, the quantity of good may not be sufficient. So that would make the venture to foreign investors. So that shows us how the number of investment in Kiribati from since 2019 up to date. And seeing the pie chart, we can see the distribution of where are the investors engaged with, which sectors they are engaged with. So next. So the impact of foreign investment in terms of value, you can see on the pie chart, so I don't need to reread the graph for you, but you can get an idea of the value they received from our foreign investors. Like what we've mentioned before, we need to also see the number of employees. Do we have a contribution from these investors to our economic development in terms of employment? Yes. And how much are they? We can refer to the table before us, and then we can see that's from 2017 up to 2025. So the trend is increasing, despite the fact that there has been like a slow increase during the COVID-19 epidemic, but that has remained stagnant. So next we look at the challenges faced to stimulating foreign direct investment. So these are some of the most critical issues that we need to look at. And like the first one is the accessibility to land, investors' access to land. Number two is the lack of incentive package. And number three is the lack of interministerial coordination. And then the last but not the least, the lack of promotional materials. Next. So these are some of the way forwards that we have come up to improve trade and investment in Kiribati. Knowing Kiribati of its limited resource, Kiribati's challenge is not primarily the market access, but the productive capacity. And despite preferential trade arrangement, export utilization remain constrained by limited processing infrastructure, transport cost, water and energy constraint, SPS requirements, and the narrow production capacity that needs to be improved. So there is the need to maximize the existing potentials with the exploitation of our abundant marine resources, targeting premium markets. And this is an example of like the accessing to the AIPA, because that's where we are targeting our premium fish. They put more emphasis on promotion packages to attract potential investors and simplify registration processes, introduction of online and other services, and the avail land access where possible to allow investors to enter for investment activities. Last but not least is to continue tapping in funding assistance from development partners who are willing to assist in this area, especially with the promotion and marketing and capacity building to allow officials to be well versed with the processes involved with online registration and to expose themselves to best practices practiced over the worldwide. So in our conclusion, and this also becomes part of the last part of the presentation, there is no doubt that if the foreign direct investment is very important to Kiribati, despite the imminent challenges in attracting and sustaining foreign direct investment. It is also noted that land remains to be a central element in facilitating investment in Kiribati. So low investment promotion activities remain to be additional constraint. And to improve trade and investment, there is a need, and it is highly recommended that we allocate land area for the foreign firm on South Tarawa, Christmas Island, and in all islands of Kiribati. Also, there is a need to improve budget resource allocation to enhance promotion and awareness activities to market Kiribati to potential investors. And the next, to improve the capacity of trade and investment staff in regards to market and other best practices to enhance trade and improve foreign direct investment. And last but not the least is to improve the coordination between government ministries and SOEs to achieve common goal to improving trade and investment. So that's all. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, and I'll open the floor for any questions or comments or discussions for our presenter. Recognize CNMI.
So this is trading, right? So you are trading with your fish, the fish?
Yeah, like the European market, they are, if, like any Pacific Island countries, they are having access to the European market. And they cannot access, they export their commodities, especially the fisheries product, to enter the European market because there is a requirement needed first. So you have to come up with like an application to sign and become a member of the IEPA. Yep. And that's once you get that, they formally started, they are formally endorsed by your government, and then that's where you can start exporting your fish to enter the European market.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I yield.
Thank you, CNMI. Floor is still open for questions or comments. I recognize Palau.
So long, Mr. Pirisi,
Yeah.
is that your name? So my question, and if you can go back one slide, or maybe two slides. It's about the land. Are all lands in Kiribati owned by the government?
No.
Oh,
No, they are customary owned by people. Except for Christmas Island, this is the state land.
so Christmas Island, state land. Right. So I was reading
So
your,
here the Christmas Tapuaran and the right here, the line and Phoenix Islands.
but in Tarawa is a different.
No, that's the customary owned by land.
Okay. So I don't know if it's a question or a comment, but I'm looking at and you have experience, maybe through programs for women's empowerment. And I'm interested because I haven't been to this is my first time coming to Christmas Island. But throughout the days that we've been here, I've been observing, like, you import even taro and tapioca from, I've asked my member here because I was so, surprised. I didn't, because when we stay in Banana, so I observe I don't see any papaya, and I don't see any taro or any, so my question is, was there any plans for the government to help women with these type of projects that, they can enable them to build their businesses through this and maybe try to minimize?
So that I try to answer your question in the very best way I can. But like if we look at the development on our Thailand, especially if we look at agriculture itself, we see that the soil is also very limited here, and the Ministry of Agriculture is the one responsible to improving the agricultural sector on the Outer Island so that they can produce the taro, cabbages, and all those kind of. But they are now trying to see what they get from the pilot project islands. Now they are having a trial on that man, one of the central islands, the biggest island in the central part of Kiribati, and some in South now. They are like they're doing agricultural works with a women community, yeah, and also the youth. And then they are supplying the central market in Tarawa, where they purchase all their goods. Yeah, that's how it works. And then our part from the ministry is to educate those people how to make use of that opportunity to make it like a sustainable commercial venture for them.
You still have the floor, Pala. Okay, all right, thank you. Sinam.
When we flew here, I saw a lot of ships out there. Are those your ships Chinese, American, European? And earlier you mentioned that you trade with the Europeans. Do you also trade with Americans?
No, those
Or
are shipping
agents?
vessels.
Ship, yes.
Ship the fishing
Fishing,
vessels.
yes.
Like you see a lot of boats, fishing
Fishing,
vessels.
yes. Where are those yours?
No, but they are paying for their license to
Ah.
fit the
From different countries?
normally from you.
Okay.
And if my colleague can assist.
Thank you, Ayul.
Thank you, CNMI. Floor is still open. I think what she's trying to say, she wants to bring her ship here. Floor is still open for questions or just any general discussion for our presenter. Are we good? We ready? All right, let's give Mr. Birisi another round of applause, and thank you very much for your presentation. All right, colleagues, members, that concludes our first day of our GA, General Assembly. We will now recess until June 29th at 10 o'clock. We'll be back here, okay? If you haven't signed up yet, there are sign-up sheets or registration forms for whether you're gonna go and watch birds or go and catch fish or go and watch birds catch fish while you're catching fish. Please check the staff and the members here at, that are helping out with our event. So once again, we are recessed until June 29th at 10 o'clock, and we'll continue here with presentations and so on and so forth. Enjoy your evening. It's an open night. Oh, yes, and tomorrow after you're done watching birds or catching fish or watching birds catch fish, there will be a barbecue hosting at Ikari House Hotel, which is nearby, at 7 o'clock. Okay? All right? Okay, with no further questions, we are in recess. Enjoy your evening.